Hello and welcome to Daily Records. I am Tommy Burton, and today's album is a progressive rock album by the band Genesis. This is Selling England by the Pound. Now, a lot of people probably are familiar with Genesis because of hits like Invisible Touch and I Can't Dance, the Phil Collins era. Phil Collins started out, he was the drummer in this band, and the original lead vocalist was Peter Gabriel. And this is one of the albums where Peter Gabriel was still involved. This was their fifth album, and it was released on October 13th, 1973. And so they had been around quite a bit at this time, released on the Charisma label. And as you can tell, mine is a promotional copy, as evidenced by the stamp there. Now, this album reached number 3 on the UK charts. It only reached number 70 in the United States. There is the inner sleeve, and there is the label with the Mad Hatter on it. But it was their first major hit in England. Now, it was recorded in August of '73, and there was a tour supporting the previous album, Foxtrot. And so the group kind of, after that tour, set aside a little period of writing. And so it kind of covers a whole lot of different types of themes and songs. Loss of English folk culture, and sort of the increase of American influence in England, which is sort of what the title is about, Selling England by the Pound. And of course they went on a tour after this, and it was well received. Now, the rest of the band, in addition to Phil Collins and Peter Gabriel, Mike Rutherford, people know Mike from Mike and the Mechanics, Michael Rutherford, Tony Banks, and Stephen Hackett played guitar on this album. Now, Steve Hackett did go on record and say this was his favorite Genesis album, but he left the band right after recording this. So he this was the last album that he did. Before he left. Now, it has sort of mixed reviews, mixed opinions. Different people feel differently about it, but a lot of these tracks became fan favorites, and they played them live for quite a bit. Now, probably the biggest one on here is the track Firth of Fifth, which is a 10-minute prog rock song. But and it was written mostly by Tony Banks. He started writing it quite a while earlier, but it was rejected by the band. But Steve Hackett plays a wonderful guitar solo on that, and a lot of people feel like it's one of the best things they ever recorded. Now, the other one that's notable on this album is More Fool Me, which is the first Genesis track to feature Peter Gabriel on lead vocals. And so, you know, after Peter Gabriel, did I say Peter Gabriel? Phil Collins on lead vocals. Sorry about that. Peter Gabriel left the band and went on to pursue a solo career, and most people know Peter Gabriel solo, and so they associate Genesis a lot with Phil Collins, and it's really two different eras of Genesis, and of course this goes back to the sort of prog rock beginnings. If you're into bands like Yes and things like that, now the thing about Genesis is it can be a little pretentious. I can understand why it's a put off for a lot of people, but to me, this, whereas Yes is more sort of in your face with this sort of master musicianship and things along of that nature, Genesis is more understated, and it's all about the mood and creating that mood and following through. And of course, Peter Gabriel is just a great vocalist. And one more note about this album, the sleeve design. This is a painting by Betty Swanwick. It's entitled "The Dream," and she had designed posters back for the London Transport back in the 30s and 50s. And so that was the painting. Now, the original painting did not feature this lawnmower, and it was sort of an allusion to the song "I Know What I Like," and so that was the idea behind the cover was that it kind of told a lot of stories of the album. But if you're unsure about prog rock Genesis and you've seen a few of those albums, this is a good starting point. Like I said, it's a good way to dip your toes into the water, especially fans of Peter Gabriel. You can't go wrong with the early Genesis stuff, and so Selling England by the Pound is one that I highly recommend. So that is today's Daily Record. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Get the word out about this channel, please, and thank you. Enjoy interacting with you guys. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. It's TommyBurton75. And be sure to check out my other channel, my regular VC channel, where I go into more depth and detail about certain things. But in the meantime, I'll see you all again tomorrow with another Daily Record. Here is the correction tag for Genesis, Selling England by the Pound. I want to thank viewer James Griffiths, who has a great channel, The Vinyl Professor. He called me out on a mistake that I made about Phil Collins taking a lead vocal on that album. Phil Collins' first lead vocal with Genesis was on Nursery Crime. It was on Four Absent Friends. And that was backed up by Bill, the Vinylverse, who also has a great channel. So check those guys out, and thank you so much for keeping me in line. If you guys see any mistakes, call me out on it. I'll be glad to correct them here, because sometimes my mouth gets ahead of my brain and the words do not come out correctly. So thank you so much.